Come on, bitch, let's go. Come on, get ready, bitches. You haven't seen nothing yet. Come on.
Valentino, Versace, Lamborghini, Bugatti. I got money to burn. I'm single and I'm naughty.
Come on.
Tiffany's, Cartier, Gucci, Armani.
Come on.
Break out your black card, boys. It's time to party.
Come on.
I've got more carrots than Bugs Bunny.
So I thought it only fitting to do today's show on the Real Housewives of New Jersey, season 14, watch party finale, gossip that Gabriela has dropped over the last 2 weeks that I was kind of unclear on as I was reviewing it. I noticed some other accounts with other gossip that confused me a little bit what they were talking about. I don't like that. So I decided that I wanted to kind of get clear on it all. And since I know so many people involved in a lot of this gossip, I thought, let me reach out and start getting information and answers just for my reporting abilities so I don't say things incorrectly. You might have been shocked like me to see Louis Ruelas on Wednesday to Thursday on Instagram post New York City divorce lawyer on his Instagram. Very cryptically, it's just a picture of James J Sexon Esq, who's America's divorce lawyer. He just puts him up on his page with nothing else. That's what Louis Ruelas does on Wednesday. And given the timing of this post following the watch party that they just watched, indicates to me that Teresa Giudice had to break the news to Louis Ruelas of something that was shown to her over the weekend that involves him that probably isn't great and really bad. And he might have flipped out and might have called production and said, I want this out, or Teresa, I can't do this anymore. I want a divorce. I'm just giving you examples of things that could have happened, and flipped out and posted the divorce attorney. Just so you know who James J Sexon Esq is, he's a divorce lawyer. He's an author. He's an iconoclast. He's followed by Lisa Hochstein. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, from the papers I've reviewed, I've seen his name before in other legal filings that Louis Ruelas has had towards his exes. Not all, some. And so when I saw this guy pop up on Louis Ruelas' feed, I was like, wait a minute, isn't that the divorce attorney he always uses when he's leaving someone? So I'm like, could this mean that Teresa Giudice and Louis are on the rocks? Or is this some cryptic message that Louis is putting up, given that the finale is going to include, Vanessa Riser in it? And like, maybe this is some sort of secret threat to her and every woman he's ever been with that he's used this attorney on. I don't know. But this was where my brain went, right? Anyway, he's got very controversial views as an attorney. If you go to his page, you can see what I'm talking about. Some people are going to love it. Some people are going to be like, oh my gosh, this is too much. Okay. Make sure you comment below wherever you're listening to this particular piece of the audio for Dishing Drama danawilkey, what you think this post meant that Louis Ruelas did right after the watch party was shown to the woman and recorded for Bravo. Let me know what you think. Also, let me know if you've ever used James Sexton. Okay, so just as I was about to finish this part of the show up, I got sent this anon. I saw your Instagram and have been following you for some time because I grew up in Rockland County and I know Louis Ruelas. You posted about Jim Sexton and I know him too. He's known in Rockland for being a shark attorney. He pretends to be some good guy in the county, but he's a bad guy. I also know that he dated Louis' ex, Vanessa Riser. Oh, isn't that juicy? And I guess he does jujitsu? Anyway, they sent me some more receipts, which I'm going to include in the Patreon, but it's pretty shocking stuff. Wow, it's just never ends with the layers of New Jersey, really. And then I got sent a theory, which I want to share with you, which is that possibly this post wasn't to do with Teresa Giudice and leaving her, but what it was to do with was Vanessa Riser and the fact that she might have breached her non-disclosure agreement as it relates to the separation with Louis Ruelas. And she may have breached it for the show. And she may have breached it because of the upcoming watch party show. And so it was Louis Ruelas' way maybe of letting Vanessa Riser know cryptically that he's going to sue her because she breached somehow the NDA. But if that's really the case, then I would imagine it'll end up in a legal fight and the NDA will eventually just get thrown out since they both seemingly are breaching this NDA anyway on both sides, through Bo Dietl, lawyers, Vanessa, the show. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of stupid. Like, just dump the NDA and let everybody get on talk shows and hate on each other at this point, right? So, but I thought I'd share that tea with you. So the first thing that's been cleared up, I'm going to bring Gabriela on the show in a few minutes, and we're going to get really deep on a bunch of stuff. This will be a two-parter. So I'm dropping the first hour today, and then I'm going to drop the second hour next Sunday. And it's a lot of information, so I think you'll appreciate this way I'm approaching it this time, because sometimes, 2 hours is a lot. Basically, Variety drops an article and they're given an exclusive. And in the article, they say that there is going to be a watch party instead of a reunion. We all knew that. But the big shocking part of it was that Andy Cohen was not going to be attending or hosting this event at all, which he has never done. He has never not gone to a quote unquote special or reunion. He just hasn't. So this was really, I think, Andy Cohen sending a message loud and clear to the cast. And you're going to hear me later in the show discussing this with Gabriela, but I think Andy Cohen was put over the edge when Michael Rapaport got entangled in this, because that's a good friend of his. And Michael has done a lot of really nice things for Andy. When Andy struggles to get a guest to come on and say a certain narrative, I feel like he reaches out to Michael Rapaport sometimes. And Michael takes the difficult position. For example, Erica Jane Girardi, I love her. She's great, during a time when no one would say it. And so I think this really pissed Andy Cohen off when those messages dropped or were presented to NBC Bravo showing Jim Leonard, Teresa's attorney and sort of manager, asking Gabriela to dig up dirt on Michael Rapaport because he said something negative about Teresa at some point. I don't know if it was on Watch What Happens Live. I can't remember now. But Michael got very upset and he said on his show, and I'm sure he texted Andy directly, I'm not going to cover this New Jersey show or do anything to do with this show if people are digging up dirt on me because I have an opinion. That's not okay. And these people are your cast, and Andy, you're my friend, So I think Andy got genuinely pissed. I'm speculating about that. And so I think him not showing was pretty symbolic. The gossip originally dropped that they were shooting at Rails, but then I heard from some of my sources they were doing a New York studio. And then I heard, no, it's at Rails. So I was a little confused. Does this mean that they're actually doing a New York studio that looks like Rails, like they did with Kathy Hilton's backyard, or are they actually shooting at Rails? I was so confused because all these sources were very good. So then I landed and found out, like everybody else, no, for sure it is actually being shot at the restaurant Rails. I'm like, okay, so it is at the restaurant Rails, the real one. They're not going to just recreate it. Rails, of course, is significant because it's where the finale takes place and this big ending happens. The cast is going to be split up into two groups. Teresa Giudice will be in one group with Jennifer Aiden and Jackie Goldschneider. And then the other room will have Danielle Cabral, Margaret Josephs, and Rachel Fuda. And I guess Dolores Catania is going to go in between the two rooms as it's reported. But you're going to find out from Gabriela some specialty about Dolores to do with this watch party later in the show. So take that Dolores going back and forth between the rooms with a grain of salt for a second. Now, Kiki Monique has a show on SiriusXM. Congratulations, Kiki, by the way. called Reality Checked. And Andy Cohen went on her show and said this: I think that the main thing is this will all make sense once you see the finale. It's one of those classic Jersey finales that people will be talking about for a long time to come, Cohen said. He said, when all of us producers saw the last cut of the finale, we all came to the decision separately, and then we talked. And they have talked about this watch party finale thing that they're doing over 2 weeks as the Last Supper for Real Housewives of New Jersey. Now, this choice of wording the Last Supper is very significant to what is probably happening with the Real Housewives of New Jersey as it exists now. And I know everybody's speculating on the future of it, so let me quickly tell you, the producers are referring again to this ending as the Last Supper. Let me tell you what the Last Supper is in case it's been a while since you've gone to CCD. The Last Supper is the final meal that in the gospel accounts Jesus shared with his apostles in Jerusalem before his crucifixion. I wonder who's who in this scenario. Now, here's where they're a little tricky, the producers. The women are going to watch the finale, which of course is this big scene where all the women fight against each other. And it gets very, very physical. I'm going to say that it goes so far that it's probably against the HR guidelines for NBC, okay? But it was great TV. But remember, when they do these shows, they also have a sort of entry point, where people say certain things or do certain things surrounding the event. So yes, the finale is going to be at this restaurant, Rails, and we're going to see this all unfold. But other people participate in this ending of an episode and say certain things. So the rumor is that somebody, and I'm going to get to who later in the episode, says something during this finale episode that is so screwed up towards a particular cast member that is really why the watch party happened. And why they didn't do a resolution reunion, because there couldn't possibly be a resolution reunion with what this person said. And you will find out from Gabriela what she was told was said. Now, this kind of went under the radar to me for a while, and then I started to figure it out. I was like, wait a minute, somebody probably said something that was not at the actual big dinner we keep seeing teased. And that's why they can't do it like they normally do. And probably Bravo producers had to make a very difficult decision. Do they use this soundbite and tell the real dramatic story, right? Which will basically make it so that nobody really wants to shoot together ever again, because there are already a million problems in that group behind the scenes. Complaints with Bravo, HR, police reports, all sorts of stuff. Or do they cut it out and they just kind of make it wrap up and they don't tell the true behind the scenes story? And I think the Bravo producers decided they wanted to tell the real story, no matter how horrific it is. And as a result of that, they were like, we're going to go ahead and tell it and let the show explode, because this is maybe the time to do it. And a reboot's in order. And I do think they're going to do a reboot. And I think Andy's mad into that. Why do I think that? Because there's too many advertisers that love New Jersey. And one of the largest fan bases is around New Jersey. So he can't lose this show. He's got to reinvent this show so they don't lose that revenue for the network, period. I mean, the business side of it's like reboot, reboot, reboot. But he also has to find a cast strong enough. Now, a lot of people think Danielle Cabral and Rachel Fuda would be great as part of this new cast. And Andy on Sirius Radio, as you'll hear later in this show, sounds like he's considering that. But Danielle Cabral also breached several new protocols of NBC. So I don't know if they're going to let her do that, because you're not allowed to be physical anymore with cast members. And this new protocol came down in October, November, and Danielle seems to not be able to really help herself. And she's already breached that protocol. So even though she's great, she can rise to the occasion, she's got big balls, I don't know if NBC wants her, because the liability surrounding her with the physicality, because that's real. Danielle's tapping something when she hits. Not every woman can go on camera, no matter how much money's on the table, and hit. It's really a whole different character. You know what I'm saying? Now, one more thing I want to tell you before I start the main show. A few things to think about in regards to the future of New Jersey. Gabriela heard that a particular cast member was for sure fired. Teresa Giudice's daughter, Gia Giudice, is on Making It in Manhattan. And Bravo is reporting that Teresa Giudice is actively seeking a property in Los Angeles. Let me quickly play you a soundbite from the Daily Dish. This was dropped Wednesday.
So I think she's going to miss Melania. I'm going to take her to Michigan when I go see Gabriela. And of course, I'm going to take her to Tampa to see Melania. She keeps saying she wants to go to the University of Miami. That's her school, and that's where I want her to go to. So I'm like, you need to study hard because you need, top grades to go there.
You want her to go there so you can visit Miami a lot?
Yes, I want to go there because eventually I want to move to the warm weather. Yes.
Is your current home your forever home?
No, we're looking at properties now. It's between California and Florida. So we're looking at properties, yeah. So even if we get something now and then eventually, when Adriana's done with high school, then we're going to do 6 months and 6 months. Like 6 months in Jersey and 6 months either wherever we pick, either California or Florida.
Just warm weather.
Just warm weather, yes, all year round. Yes, that's what I want.
So there's that. And then there's the way that production seems to be using Dolores as this bridge between all the women, and they're sort of featuring Dolores these days. She's, in the center of the poster. She's moved from the side to the center, and she's really being used a lot by production. So that's kind of something to note. Margaret seems to be getting rewarded with ads, right? She got the big advertiser ad for the blonde hair. So there's that. And the Fudas have done some sort of anti-Bravo media. So I don't know if that means that they're done. Like they don't think that this is worth doing anymore or not. Sometimes that's an indicator. So, there's people who really want to see a reboot. There's people who really want to see it end. There's people who are like, give it a pause. And based on what Andy Cohen says, it sounds like they're really considering ending it and then just doing a reboot like they did with New York. Like it's played out. It's time. It's gotten too toxic. They don't know how to approach it. But that doesn't mean these characters that you guys love are not going to show up somewhere else or on other shows. Those women are actively pitching ideas to Bravo because you don't just leave the show. Like if you leave, you're like still in touch with production and you're like, well, I could do this, or if you get something to do on this show, I'd love to do it. And speaking of doing things after you leave Real Housewives of New Jersey, have you guys bought My Life with the Big Boys yet by Kim D? I haven't covered it intentionally yet because I want her to sell loads of copies. I'm dying. I've asked her for one. I can't wait to see the book. I'm going to read it the second I get it. Kim D and I are doing a live at the moment. It's scheduled for the day after the finale, April 5th, 1 p.m. East Coast time. So I hope you guys will join us on the YouTube to do that show together. Lots of surprises in the Patreon. Have you been?
Hi, Dana. Good. I've been good, considering the situation. I've been good hanging in there.
I meant to ask you, I know you lost control of your ex account for a little while. I actually blocked you for a minute because I knew you had lost control of it. And I was like scared who was behind the hacking of your ex, given all the Bo Dietl stuff. So I was like, I better block that account. And then when I found out you got it back from X, I was like, okay, I can unblock her and follow her again. What happened?
Yes. We actually had to hire, I got locked out, and we actually had to hire somebody to help us get back in. And, X themselves ended up allowing me to put in my, like a not current, but like a new, because I had to make a new email. So I had to change it all up, but X did, step in once we were able to get certain codes sent to my phone. So I was able to get back in. My password was changed on me.
Wow.
It was a little scary because I don't really care what they see in the DMs because, all that's there is, things that will expose others. But
Right.
I was just like, yikes, like, my personal information was there. And I know I've already been doxxed, but it's still a little scary when someone, breaches you like that.
Well, and they could have made a post without your permission.
Yeah.
And it, made you suddenly look bad. I've actually had my ex hacked by the father of my child when he was leaving me, and he started writing defamatory and slanderous information on my own Twitter account. He used my secret information that he got by being, my boyfriend for years and my fiance against me. And he started using my account, and it took several days for me to get my account back. And then I finally did. I think his stuff is still up from like 10 years ago or something, but I mean, it's
Oh, wow.
really scary.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It really like made me, go back into a shell a little bit, because when someone like crosses a boundary like that, it does scare you. It like gives you a little jolt, and it almost reminds you that, there's people out there who are angry, who don't want what I'm saying to be told. So, at least I got it back, and we did end up putting, another security feature on it. So
Good. Well, I'm
I think we should be
glad.
good going forward.
Yeah. And by the way, you guys, X is great about this. Instagram is pretty good. Facebook, bad experience with them. That's why I don't participate on Facebook, because Instagram makes me post to Facebook. I do have it, but I won't ever put anything of any value on Facebook, because my ex also hacked that account and I lost all of my memories from the few years I was on Beverly Hills
Wow.
Housewives. Yeah. And I never could get it back. So it was pretty bad. He went in, he hacked it, he deleted it, and I lost everything. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yep. So anyway, oh God, the drama of it all. Obviously I've dealt with a guy who, is named John, by the way, and he ruined my life. What can I tell you? He destroyed my life. He was horrific. And so it's why I'm probably more sensitive to the New Jersey gossip than most people. It's really nut stuff. And I think he's still hurting women, I hear. So he's still doing it. Crazy.
You have an interesting perspective then, Dana, having dealt with someone who was very much a narcissist,
Oh, yeah.
someone who, crossed many boundaries to ruin lives, including yours. So I get it. Like, I had somebody ask me, why is Dana so invested in Louis and what he's doing? And I said, I don't think it's personal, like in regards to him specifically. I think in general, what he's doing, what he's about, there's, maybe something behind there. And you sharing your story, I know you mentioned it to me with your ex, but it makes sense, why you would want to not just expose, but it's like you're issuing a warning to people, so I get it.
Yeah, I did a Dana Wilkey origin story. It's 4 parts in the Patreon, and I tell the whole story. I also did a show with Vanessa Riser where she acted as my therapist, and I told what happened to me and what he did to me. And these guys never go away, and they torture you forever, and they know that they can make you afraid. I recently just got sent some really scary stuff from him. This is 10 years later, still trying to make me afraid. I don't know what to say. I feel so bad for any woman that encounters these types of monsters. I am trying to warn women. They're usually rich. They're usually powerful, because it attracts people with impulse control problems that have no ethical barometer. So they're willing to take huge risks. And in that usually comes a lot of money and high positions of power. And they also lose it pretty quickly. So they make money in huge amounts and they lose it in huge amounts. It's wild stuff. But yeah, that's why I'm so sensitive about this, because I know that it's so damaging to the woman. And when she's in it, she can't get away from it. So if she wants to leave, there's 30 things he'll do to prevent her from leaving. Even if he doesn't want her, even if he's cheating on her, even if he has a double life, there is no logic behind it. It's control, control, control. I laugh because Kim D and I argue about this, where she's like, you could just leave. I'm like, you don't understand what it's like to be with a true narcissist. You can't just leave. And if you leave, be ready, because they're coming for you, and they're going to do everything in their power to get you arrested, to take your money, to ruin your life. If they have a child with you, they'll abandon the child. like it's next level shit. You don't
Yeah.
understand until you've been in one.
Yeah. I have a friend who I've been friends with since we were 6 years old, and she was in an abusive relationship for over 20 years. And it was like so hard for her to just step away and walk away from that. And just recently I asked her, what took you so long? Why didn't you just walk? And she started explaining things to me in a way that I never like saw that relationship. She broke it down for me, and I now realize why some women do not walk. They can't. They just don't. And I know some people say, like how Kim said, why didn't you just leave? You're in this world where there are so many barriers that you can't break through, and there's fear and anxiety, and it's a whole package. So I mean, I really do appreciate when you do your deep dives, Dana, and you investigate specific things. And I know, Teresa's fans naturally are going to say, Dana, why are you digging into him? Why are you like talking shit? Why are you making issues? You're not. You're just exposing what's already there, the facts, receipts, the truth. And if it paints someone who happens to be married to Teresa Giudice in a bad light, then so be it, because maybe what you're saying could possibly clear the path for someone to see somebody for who they really are and help them in this journey, maybe to take a step back or to not get involved. In regards to my situation, when I started exposing that camp and letting people know how these people maneuver and work, and the optics of it all and the whole operation in itself, part of me also did it to warn people who are still on the inside, like, listen, this is who they really are. This is how they maneuver. This is what they do. Do you really want to play with fire like that? Because in the end, you will get burnt and lives are being ruined here. So I get, I understand fully why you do what you do. And you're one of those rare podcasts. You're not just like gossiping. You're like like a Dateline. You're one of those type of podcasts.
I try to take an interesting approach to looking at
Yeah.
things from multiple
It's
perspectives.
interesting. The other day, I drove my son to LAX and we got stuck in traffic, and we were listening to one of your episodes, and he was like, "She's good." I was like, "Yeah, right? Doesn't she remind you of like an investigative reporter?" I love it.
Well,
And then
let
your
me
sound
tell you
effects.
something really funny. I was saying this in the Patreon, and I was telling some of the people in a bonus audio. The way my ex hurt me was he destroyed my reputation, which I had spent, he knew that was the most important thing to me. And I had spent like 20 years building it up, doing hundreds and hundreds of deals a year because I did product placement in film and I represented A-list talent, and I never had any issues until him. And he was like, just attack, attack, attack. And he knew how to weaponize the justice system, the legal system. To this day, he's never paid $1 child support, not one, even though I have an ironclad order. And even though they chase him around the United States, he gets fake driver's license. He's Irish by descent. He gets a Irish passport instead of a US passport. And this man, like, the hustle never ends. It's always on. And, when he destroyed my life, and what he destroyed my life with was that I had been aware of something and I didn't tell a judge or a person in authority about it.
Mm-hmm.
The irony of that for me was, okay, I'm going to now dedicate my entire life to telling everybody everything that nobody wants out, because I'm never, ever going to be guilty of that again. And no matter where it is or what it's about, I'm going to do that. Sort of like, those Marvel comic moments, right?
Yeah.
Where Batman's parents get killed in front of him and he's like, I'm going to stop all crime from now on.
Yeah.
This was my Batman moment. In fact, you're going to want me to shut up. You're going to want me to go away. And also, the fall from grace was really refreshing for me, because forever.
Is it not? Isn't it liberating?
It's the most liberating thing. And actually, I've coached some New Jersey cast members on this, where I've said, don't be afraid to be regular. It's super empowering to not have to have people look up to you, to not pretend you're a certain way to be where you are. Just like be you, and be like, don't look up to me. and keep trucking and own everything you've done and just be who you are, because that's character building shit. It's what makes you interesting. And you can't possibly have any take on anything unless you've been through a bunch of shit in your life. Otherwise, you have nothing to comment on.
Yeah. And you know what? That's so unfortunate for somebody like Teresa Giudice. She's been through a lot. You know, she was found guilty of specific crimes. She went to prison. She lived all of that. How amazing would it have been to see the aftermath of that in regards to growth and her working with people in the legal system and women who are leaving prison and having to start over again? There was such a story there. And I feel like her story was kind of dimmed a bit after she left prison because a lot of other things began to take place, but she also didn't allow. I know she wrote a book and everything, but she could have took a deep dive into that and it could have been so educational for many people. And she had that platform.
I don't think that was Teresa. I think that was Bravo, because Bravo, I heard from cast members that were there at the time that Bravo's producers were telling them that they were trying to distance the criminal aspect of Teresa Giudice on the show because the sponsors or higher ups at Bravo didn't like that, meaning the advertisers. They weren't into that whole thing.
Even in recent years, there's been things that she was outright caught in regards to things on the show, like even this past year, even the things that I've been exposing. These were moments for her to live the truth and to own it and to grow from it. I mean, I know Jennifer Aiden just, admitted it, but she still gaslit Andy very much in regards to her response. But Teresa outright denied it. That could have been a moment for her to show people, like, as ugly as it is, guys. Yeah, but yeah, it's true. Like, take it or leave it. But she's had so many opportunities in this past year alone where she could have owned them and be, set herself free of them. And it could have brought such a amazing perspective, even though she was doing some pretty dirty shit behind the scenes. I just feel like there's so many opportunities that she missed that she could have owned up to it, and it would have been a great lesson for herself and others around her. I mean, because obviously her daughters, some of them are on social media. They're seeing my receipts. They know, they've heard me on the phone with their mother. We were on speaker every time she was driving in the car. So every time we were on the phone and she was in the car, I could hear Gia. I would talk to Gia. I would talk to Melania. So they know what I'm saying is true. They've heard my voice. They know who I am. They met me when they came to the Shein photo shoot in California. So these girls know what I'm saying is true. And for their mother to have been on a platform like Watch What Happens Live and said, you know what, I was just pissed at Margaret. I wanted to get back at her. If I was, mad at my sister-in-law, I wanted to do this. Yeah. There for her daughters, for her to have owned it, to be real about it. That would have been something amazing. But instead she said, no, prove it to Andy. And anyhow.
And I want to get to the Watch What Happens Live. I'm going to play a soundbite for you that Jennifer Aiden said about talking to the quote unquote bloggers, which was you, obviously, and Andy's interesting response to it. I want to say what I think that was about. But before I do, I have one question. Okay. I noticed that you dropped a bunch of receipts to do with Margaret being overheard at a restaurant. And she's some woman who gives you her phone number says, I overheard Margaret Josephs at this restaurant saying Dolores was cheating on not Polly, the previous guy, the doctor.
David, yes.
Yeah, David. And then saying that she had cheated with this famous radio host, Sid, or whatever. I'll let you tell the story. Yeah. But my question is, was it Teresa Giudice and Jennifer Aiden trying to get that out, or was it Margaret? Because I got lost in that. And I actually said to the patrons, I read it to them. And I was like, what confused me was like, I thought Teresa was trying to get that out, but then Margaret said it. So what was the story with this? Can you explain that dynamic?
Yes. So Teresa ultimately cannot stand that Margaret and Dolores are friends.
For the full scoop, join the Dishing Drama Dana Patreon. The link is in this audio description. It's only $6 a month, and you'll get the best information and tea about the things you care about, and even the things you don't know you care about. What are you waiting for?